Welcome to Mt Shasta Escape. Okay, it's March 17th, 2024. Getting ready to do the Gateway Trail System again, but I'm starting from Shastice Park, which I haven't done on a bike before. Temperatures, gosh, upper mid-50s, so nice day. Got some nice weather till midweek, and then we got some rain, a little cooler weather moving in, but overall, weather is changing from winter out to spring. Oh, looks like maybe I found the steep part. And I can already see I'm not. Okay, so rather than walk the bike up there, I'm going to turn around and go back to that less steep route. I want to find out if there is a more reasonable way to make it to the main trail system from here. This is the little offshoot that may give me a way up there. A little more switchbacky, not so much straight up through big boulders. If this does that, it'll be interesting because it's not on any of my digital maps. That includes Trail Forks and Gaia, and I got a few others. So I don't know where this is going to go. Okay, switchback number one here. It's promising. Another sharp switchback. Testing my bike skills out here kind of early on. Oh, now what? I can go left or I can go right. Well, I still want to climb. I'm still hoping that this will get me up there. So it's definitely easier than the way I bailed out on, but I wouldn't call it easy. And there's railroad tracks, so yeah, it did get me up there. Anyway, that's past that nasty steep stretch. So there is an alternate way to get up, and it's a reasonable way. Of course, this train track is not used anymore, so that's nice. Don't have to worry about being this close, yikes, to a train going by. Yeah, and I managed to catch this one. Okay. And there it is. Beats the railroad track. I'm changing up how I get to these trails. I always used to start riding from my house to get to them, and I mean, I'd wind up riding, I don't know, 3 miles or so, 4 miles. Just to get to the trails up a forest road. And I think I've got one of my early videos showing me doing that. And I enjoyed it, but I'm driving to the trails now because I also hit a point kind of late last summer where I was doing like longer rides. I'm going to try straight ahead here, see what it is. It's a road still, but anyway, I was doing like 2.5 hour bike rides and doing the motorcycle rides too, but I think it was the bike that got me. But my knee got aggravated to the point where I had trouble walking for over a week, and I was kind of parked on the couch, and that kind of spooked me. So we'll see if I can work back up to doing a little bit longer rides and see if that knee replacement holds up to it. Not a bad road to ride up as roads go, but I guess given a choice, I'd rather be on the trail. But I haven't been up this before, so I've got 2 maps that I'll use on my watch. It's an Apple Watch, but Apple Watch doesn't have any maps built into it like Garmin series watches often have. But there are 2 apps. One's called Footpath and the other's called Work Outdoors. I've used both. I have both. and they both have pros and cons, and currently I'm using Work Outdoors. It shows the trails. Okay, the Pig Farm Trail is to the left right there. It says Everett Memorial Highway via Road 2.9. That doesn't sound like fun at all. And the Stump Trail. Now I've done the Stump Trail going the other direction. So this time I will go down Stump, and it's got one real steep spot there that I've never been able to ride the bike up. Even my e-bike, I've had to walk it up. I ought to be able to ride down it. Both of these trails, Stump and Pig Farm, they're entertaining trails. I like them. And for the most part, they're the kind of trail that I prefer, you know, kind of your blue intermediate level trails. I used to live in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I did a lot of cross-country mountain bike racing back in those days. And one of the things that always frustrated me was that the Wisconsin Off-Road Series, WARS they called it, at that time it was the largest cross-country road race series in the country. I don't think it's as big now as it used to be. It's like everything loses popularity, people start doing other stuff, but I was used to be aggravated because in Eau Claire, the trails that I would ride and train on would be covered with snow through April. And they would have their first race probably late April, early May. And the people in the eastern part of the state, especially the southeastern, would have had dry trails to practice on for, you know, a month, 2 months. Always put me at a disadvantage in that first race. But I guess not too big a disadvantage. I won most of my races, so I can't complain. I say I won most of my races. When I first started racing mountain bikes, oh gosh, was when I quit racing the dirt bikes. I'm gonna go up this trail. I usually go down it back in last season. But when I quit racing dirt bikes, gosh, I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was when I was about 51. So I started racing mountain bikes then. And I had raced mountain bikes before, all the way back in 1986, but that was just one season. I was doing a lot of cross country, I was doing a lot of 10K foot races, and I was pretty competitive in both. But then I never did it again until many, many years later. And so when I started racing mountain bikes, I entered what they called citizen class, which in most states they'll call it Cat 3, kind of your entry level beginner class. And it took me a couple years actually before I started winning the races. I think it was in my second year though that I started winning some races, and then I had one race where, you know, of course I say winning, it was H class, but then I had one race where I placed 4th overall, irrespective of H class, and I was 7 minutes ahead of the second place finish in my H class, and that shamed me into saying, okay, I can't stay in Cat 3, so I moved up to Cat 2. And I did that for a number of years. And I'd love to say I won a lot of Cat 2 races, but I never won a single one. I always placed top 3. I was always on the podium. I got a whole lot of second and third places. And literally everybody that won one of those races, I beat them at one time or another too. So all those people that won first places, I could beat them, but you know, when you're doing a cross-country race, and the Cat 2 races usually last about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. And you're going through tight woods, and you're going through lots of traffic, because when you're in the age class, and I was in the, I don't know, over 50 class anyway, they always make the old folks start later because they think you're going to be slower. Of course, you're not. At least most of us weren't. But that means they start you in 2-minute waves. And I'd have about 4 or 5 waves ahead of me. And on tight single track, I was constantly passing and doing it on tight trails, and so many weird things could happen. I followed one guy for a while, and I told him, you know, when you get a chance, I'd like to pass. And made the mistake of getting right on his rear wheel, waiting for him to pull over. And he went between two trees that were about handlebar width and spooks and grabs his brakes, which to me was inconceivable. Dumb me, my fault. But when he did that, I overlapped his back wheel with my front wheel, which put me smack into a tree on the side, which proceeded to badly bend my rear derailleur hanger. And at that point, I was leading by a little over 30 seconds the guy that had won the Cat 2 series the year before, and a guy that I knew and I'd ridden with him just socially. And I thought I'd be pretty competitive with him, but I didn't know if I could beat him or not, and I certainly would have if that hadn't happened. Because then I spent about the next 2 minutes getting off and on the bike by hand, trying to eyeball and bend that rear derailleur hanger back to the point where I could shift gears again. And I finally got it to where I could use about half the gears. Of course, in that minute and a half, 2 minutes, my nemesis caught me and passed me. And when I finally got to where I could ride the bike, I still couldn't use all the gears. But then I hammered it on home, and at that point, I was probably, when this all happened, 10 minutes from the finish line, and I finished about a minute and a half behind him in second place. That should have been a Cat 2 win. And I couldn't begin to tell you how many times weird things like that happened. But that's the problem. These amateur races, regardless of what category you're in, they tend to mix up people of all skill levels. And when you're older and they start you at the back, that means you've got to pass those people of, a little less fitness and perhaps not quite as high a skill level. And passing is quite a chancy thing. And just about every time I wound up as second or third, there's something that happened that took me out of first. So there I am. Sour grapes. Not really. It was fun. I had a good time. All the people that beat me, we knew each other. They knew that on any given day, any one of us could win. Okay, stump trail to the right. Interesting. Okay. That would loop me back, which I may go ahead and do it. Of course, I think that place going back is where that steep section was that I've always had to push my bike up that last little bit. Like I've always said in my other bike rides, I've got 2 dogs that I just have to get out and walk with. And a fine young lady I'm married to that I got to get back and walk with too. That also confirms that spot that I thought might be the steep hill wasn't. And I wasn't going to get it on that section of the stump trail. I had to come back to this section. Got to be some deadfall every winter. Just let that balance there for a minute. Now this is the second e-mountain bike I've owned. My first one was a Niner, Rip E9. It was a full power bike, but it weighed 54 pounds. And getting over things like this is a whole lot harder with a 54-pound bike than it is with a 42. And this is a mid-power bike, so I don't have as much power as that bike had. But right that moment, I'll take lower power any day for lighter weight. That made that a whole lot easier. And of course, what I'm on a Trek Fuel EXC 9.7. I've weighed the bike. That's my actual, as I ride it, weight, which is slightly higher than the published weight, but it takes into account your pedals that you put on. I've got some non-standard hand grips, got a little heel pad there that you can rest your hand on. I'm not using the stock seat either, and I haven't tried to weigh the stock versus the one I've got on. I usually don't do this, but I know some people will. But if I was to get to that hill and try it, then back off, try again, and try different ways of doing it, I might eventually figure out how to get up it. But I have more fun just riding than necessarily trying to figure out how to get past a particular tricky section. And that's a section. And you know what? I put myself in granny gear, was just a little bit too slow for it. If I'd been in second or third gear, I think I would have had that. So, there you have it. I just have to do it a few more times and I'll get this all figured out. Anyway, that was encouraging. I should go back and get another run at it and do it, and at this point I'm actually positive I would do it. But by the time I get around to ever riding that again, I'll probably forget everything. And okay, pig farm. That little thing right there, yeah, probably not that bad, but no thank you. Anyway, this is pig farm, kind of flowing. That one kind of wood ramp jump there, if you're into such things. Oh, another little jump right here if you want to do it. I mean, that's nice and gradual. Oh, I don't want to go over that rock. Could have though. Boy, looking at the other side, that would have been easy. Joint replacements overall are a very good thing. I mean, before I did the joint replacements with my ankle, my knee, I could barely walk, you know, a few hundred yards. They would really be locking up on me, so they both needed replacing, and I can do quite a bit now. But never delude yourself into thinking that once you get your joints replaced all at once, you're going to be doing everything you did back when you had good joints before you had the problems. It never works that way. On the other hand, hey, I'm out here riding a bike, e-bike, yes. I'm riding my dual sport bike. I'm hiking with my dogs and my wife. Occasionally overdo it, and then my knee tells me that I gotta back down. I can't do that for a while. But that's how you learn. And I'm not going back exactly the way I came, so this could wind up being a mistake. This is taking me quite a ways out of my way, but it looks still like this is doable, so. But strangely, something's working out is when I post videos with either the Z mountain bike or with my dual support motorcycle, I wind up getting a lot more views when I just do our hikes with the dogs. Which is kind of a shame, because I think the hikes with the dogs usually have very nice scenery. And I'm a little prejudiced, but I think those dogs are kind of fun to watch. There's the trail I'm looking for. That should get me back to Shastice Park, but it doesn't directly connect with the railroad tracks. You got to know about it and want to get to it, and then you can. I don't know if I cut it out of that video because I haven't made it yet, but the one from yesterday where I was riding my dirt bike or dual sport bike, I was talking about how when I used to race enduros in Wisconsin, lots of really tight trees that you would race in. And those trees could snag a handlebar, and of course if it does that, it just throws you right down the ground. And I would cut the handlebars really short. Made it a lot easier to get through them, but there's a downside to that. When you get in really rocky terrain, those short handlebars allow that front wheel to get yanked around a lot harder. It's much harder to control. And in my older years, I'm willing to just go a little slower. Here's my Shastice Park. Just like that, I'm back.